Nigeria Info 99.3. Just do a quick search and you find us there. Twitter is at Nigeria Info FM. WhatsApp number to leave us your comments 08095975805. I'm Wemimo Adewuni. Welcome.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. We got the papers on the table already. Daily Independent is here, Daily Trust, the Nation newspaper, as well as Daily Sun.
And I have our media partner, The Guardian, here, the Punch newspaper, the Vanguard, the New Telegraph, as well as Leadership Friday, or Friday Leadership, which is a...
What did they write there?
Both. Both. So, pick one. Let's start with The Guardian. The biggest story here, furore as a TI, that's Transparency International, indicts Buhari for worsening corruption. There are writers to this one. EFCC, Malami, PDP, others disagree on graft index. Nation behind South Africa, Ghana, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. This is referring to Transparency International reports, which claim Nigeria has become more corrupt. You find this story also in the Punch newspaper. Serap others back Transparency International as Nigeria dips in graft rating. The Vanguard, Nigeria drops in global corruption index. Biggest story on the New Telegraph. Transparency International, EFCC, Buhari supporters all disagree on corruption rating. CPI saying Nigeria is the second most corrupt country in West Africa. Anti-graft agency, BMO, saying your narrative has no basis. PDP also saying we have been vindicated by this report. Sounds like it's in their favor, right?
Always if it's like that. Daily Independent newspaper this morning. Corruption worsened in Nigeria in 2019, according to Transparency International. It comes with riders, says country's rule of law selective. We've been vindicated, the PDP. EFCC slams TI over poor rating of Nigeria. Daily Independent newspaper front page. Let's pick up the Nation right now. Government rejects TI's anti-graft ranking. Agency rates Nigeria low. That's on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Rotimi Sankore joins us. Rotimi, good morning to you. It's good to have you here.
Morning.
So we're here again, Transparency International.
Well, let me first say that the most amusing subheading I'm finding there is the PDP reaction.
We have been vindicated.
We have been vindicated. I mean, does that mean they're like us? We are the same.
No, I'm sure they mean we've been saying it. We've been saying it now. It's confirmed.
Well,
they are the same as us. There is no difference. So, okay. So, let's concede that EFCC was set up under Obasanjo. So, at least a PDP president did something positive there. But the idea that, I mean, PDP is a collective. So if they feel Obasanjo did something good in setting up EFCC, which most Nigerians would agree with,
right.
Now turning around to say we are vindicated after all we have seen under PDP government, the level of corruption, you know, they may feel obliged as the main opposition party to make statements on these kind of things, but there are some things on which it is better you say nothing rather than point at yourself as a serious offender. But going to the bigger picture, the perception, that is what it is called. Perception. It's a perception index. So while the Buhari government has done some interesting things in the fight against corruption, as indeed did some of the PDP presidents. You know, I mean, for instance, the public sector payment system,
IPPIs.
Yes, you know, it was introduced under PDP. So, I mean, you can say that. I mean, someone like Okonjo-Iweala did take some important steps.
Right.
For instance.
Right.
So there have been some technical steps taken by previous and current governments.
Right.
Current government has done a lot of interesting things, but the perception, that is the thing.
Does that mean that they are not being seen? Those things are not being seen.
Well, so it could be that they are not communicating. I mean, like Magu said, we've done so many convictions, so
Right.
the corruption level cannot be the same. But if the perception is that it is selective,
Right.
then the perception is the perception. They will say, of course,
Could the perception have been wrong?
I don't.
I mean, it's a perception after all.
The perception may take some time to catch up with the reality, given the obvious opulence of politicians of both parties.
Right. Right.
But if the perception is that if you go into government, into public service, you still come out wealthier than when you went in, that perception is not wrong because it still happens. For sure. I mean,
How important is this TI report?
it is, because people mustn't forget it's standardized methodology,
Right.
global.
So there's nothing personal about it.
No, it's not focusing on Nigeria. It's standardized methodology. I mean, I think 8 or 9 years ago, I had a sit down with some of the people that do the work in Addis. There was a conference of ministers of finance by the Economic Commission of Africa. The secretariat is in Addis, the UNECA, and there was a side meeting on this. And after that, some of us sat down with some of the guys that that do the methodology, and they explained, and it was reasonably clear to anybody who works on data, someone like me, that it's standardized globally. So
Right.
the idea that you disagree, I mean, you can't disagree with a methodology. You go and do yours.
It looks like it's a Nigerian thing to say. If we don't like how the report, any report sounds, we disagree.
Last year, Nigeria improved 2 places, and they embraced it.
No, we can't disagree.
I mean,
with
the
that.
same people agreed with it.
If it's positive,
Now
we
it
tend
has
to
returned
agree.
to where it was before, and they are
will wait
disagreeing.
Well, let's see another story. Amotekun is still all over the papers. Amotekun controversy reported by The Guardian. Osinbajo, Southwest governors agree on framework, right? Biggest story on the Punch. Operation Amotekun governors meet Osinbajo to back exercise with law. Malami said he was misquoted on Amotekun's status. That's coming from Akeredolu. When I saw this yesterday, I just said, Constitution does not recognize regional security outfit, says AGF. So where was he misquoted? Vanguard newspaper, Amotekun confusion as Malami differs with Osinbajo, Southwest governors. These are conflicting. The writers here say outfit must align with community policing strategy, says Osinbajo. Amotekun illegal, Malami insists. So which of these headlines do we believe? One says he said he was misquoted, and he still says the Constitution does not recognize. This says Amotekun is illegal, he insists. It stays, says Akeredolu. Southwest governors must never back down. Afenifere Akintoye Agbekoya say enact laws to back Amotekun. Falana says. I also find this across the other papers. New Telegraph, Malami saying regional security arrangement not backed by law.
It's on the front page of Daily Trust and the banner. You can pick it up. It's also, the caption is also on Vanguard newspaper. All the state governors who are present. Wait,
They're all
is Lagos the governor? Yeah.
No.
He's with the president. Yes, he's with the president. Yeah, he went to the UK with the...
And there's a photo here on the front page of the Vanguard with the vice president. IGP was also there.
Yeah,
Mohammed Ademu.
IGP
And Southwest governors at the stakeholders meeting yesterday.
So from the pictures, we can see that Malami was in the meeting. The IG was in the meeting. The vice president put out a statement via social media and other traditional channels, as did his spokespeople, saying they agreed that Amotekun will stay, but that it will now be under the framework, under the FG's framework on community policing. If that was the outcome, it's a clever outcome.
I think it's good.
And smart.
Which allows, which is what should have been done
Yes,
in the
yes,
first place.
yes.
As I was saying on the day after Malami said it was illegal, I said, look, this is a lose-lose situation for Malami. He should have just called the governors and said, let us meet at the next Federal Executive Council, which is what they have now done. And then reached a face-saving arrangement, which is, let us just say it will come under the FG community thing, but in reality, the governors will just go back. The 5 states will pass the law and they will appoint a regional coordinator. But there is a subtext, and we need to watch carefully. The fact that Malami still seems to be making some contrary statements here and there suggests that in the meeting with the VP, faced with the logic and the situation and couldn't disrespect the VP.
It was embarrassing to a corner.
Then probably went out, met some of the hardliners, and they were
said,
like,
you
what's happened in there?
Right.
Did you just wait, let Oga come back? When Oga comes back,
we're back on our stance.
we'll show them.
So we shouldn't be too carried
Oh,
away.
no. I mean, will someone embarrass Oshie Banjo over the weekend or by Monday? Maybe.
That's quite valid.
It will be getting more interesting, I believe.
If they go and spin something and say,
That's
well,
very
what do you
valid.
expect? He's from that part of the country.
You want all of them are from the southwest.
He won't be able to go home if he says no. I'm also, you have to agree. I mean, they will
and
forget.
then go again and insist.
They will forget that the VP is a professor of law. Is a son. He would have studied all the legal everything and just said, look, let's find a way out that will not raise the temperature and drive us down the road of conflict.
Right.
People must not forget, for those who don't know, over 2 million people died in the Civil War.
Right, absolutely.
Over 2 million.
Absolutely.
In fact, some reports say up to 3 million and about half of starvation. So for anybody beating their chest and saying, especially all these, small groups in the north saying, it's Oduduwa Republic, we are going to fight to finish, we are going to, people always have to find the most peaceful solution to any process,
True.
whether it is a
True.
misstep or not.
True. Rotimi, let's move on to our next story. Daily Trust newspaper. Some states yet to receive FG support as Lassa fever spreads. Lassa fever has been in the news, and it's increasing from the reports we're getting. That's Daily Trust newspaper. If you check the Nation newspaper, it's on the front page there as well. Lassa fever death toll rises to 38.
The Punch says 24.
In 11 states. That's what the Nation has here. Lassa fever death toll rises to 38 in 11 states. That's the Nation newspaper. From the front page of the Daily Independent, Edo records 8 deaths in 175 Lassa fever cases. Daily Independent.
These are people that shouldn't have any business dying. I mean, it gives me the shivers. Also from the New Telegraph, Lassa fever fear grips Nigeria. Over 30 die as disease spread to 9 states. Another paper says 11 states.
Again, predictable, preventable. The Ministry of Agriculture
What is wrong?
needs to step in. The food production process
I mean, why won't
needs
we
to be
overstated
standardized.
this?
The drying of gari, lubo, and everything needs to be raised from the ground. Mechanized forms of drying food with heat need to be introduced. The food needs to be stored in containers not porous to rats.
Right.
The food needs to be categorized into cooperative process with batch number,
That can be
serial
traced.
number that can be traced,
And
withdrawn.
retrieved.
Yes. See, when anytime this thing happens, the health commissioners, the ministries,
Yeah.
that is too late.
It's
already.
reactive.
The thing is, prevent it from happening.
Right.
And
Every year.
Every year. And the thing starts from the food production process.
So Rotimi, amazing point, right? But let's look at activation of treatment processes. We know that this is the season of Lassa fever.
Actually, Lassa fever.
Why can't they? Why is
Lassa
the activation
fever,
always very slow
actually,
until we begin to have casualties?
Actually, Lassa fever. One of the bad things about Lassa fever is that there isn't a standardized medicine designed as treatment for Lassa fever.
Right.
The medicines that treat Lassa fever is incidental. Those medicines were designed to treat something else. But they found that it can treat Lassa fever. So, the hospitals can't say, I want Lassa fever medicine.
No, but this is what I'm trying to say, right? We know that this is the season. Let's have some activation mechanism in place that should anybody comes down with this symptom, there
are two things we need
this
to
is
do.
what we can do.
The first thing is, as we said, improve the food production process by mechanizing, by raising the thing off the ground, using mechanized heat, so that rats won't go and play in agari, elubo, all kinds of things that are spread on the floor. That's where it starts from. All these things they tell people that in your home, cover your pot of soup. Look,
food
it's already in the home. It's already there.
The gari, you already bought the gari and the lubo.
And you don't wash
and
gari before you eat it. You just drink it.
So that's the first thing that needs to be done.
Actually, you don't wash
exactly.
gari. You just take it.
So that's the first thing that needs to be done. The second is what Sheriff is pointing out, which is that pending when we can mechanize, if ever, we can mechanize to the extent where the production of the food does not involve laying it on the ground everywhere. Then, pending that, once you can anticipate that the poor food production process will inevitably lead to Lassa fever, in those areas, like the gari producing states, the lubo producing, this medicine is probably not wise to mention the name of it so that people won't start rushing for it.
Right.
This medicine should be made available, and doctors and nurses and all the first responders should be provided with protective gear.
Right.
If it wasn't available before, they should know that by November, December, you order the thing en masse because...
Even if we start mechanized farming, let's have it on ground, like Sheriff said.
No, it's not the mechanized farming. Mechanized food production.
In case we then get the outbreak, let's have it ready. But this would have no business dying. We'll be talking about Lassa fever in full on Monday morning.
It's criminal negligence.
Like every other thing we have.
On the part of multiple ministries.
As much as
especially food and agriculture.
Not to overthink this matter.
Right.
I'm tempted to go back to one of the things you mentioned. Do some people make money from this yearly cycle? Let's keep thinking about that as we move on. U.S. plans visa restriction. That's a lot, but I've been thinking about it. U.S. plans visa restriction for pregnant women. This was on our chit-chat this morning. It was quite a conversation.
Is the Trump move to control the demographics in the U.S.? For those who follow demographic shift and patterns globally, by 2050, white people will become a minority in the U.S. Already, in many primary schools across the U.S., white children are a minority. So, to put it crudely, Trump is the last stand of, the white political elite that has run the place since, like forever. And they are really scared that, the emergence of Obama, the potential, emergence of President Jose, or President Antonio, who may be Latin American by birth, and if you visited America a few times, after Obama became president, the dominant narrative in those circles was that, hey, this guy, his dad came from Kenya to study in Harvard, met a nice lady, they gave birth to a baby, he went back to Kenya, and the guy emerged as president. So already they are thinking that there are enough of people like Obama to then have women expecting come, give birth, the children become U.S. citizens, and become what Republicans describe as anchor baby.
Right.
So your child is a U.S. citizen. when the child grows up, they can now bring all
Bring
their
you over.
family
Right.
and then, accelerate the demographic shift.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is really sophisticated stuff. But
Right.
this, all this, let's build the wall, let's do this, let's do that. And the fact that Trump said there is nothing he will do, the support will not drop below 40%. That 40% is essentially white electorate.
Well, let's make it clear that for now, if you still are able to go through the very tougher process now, and you still get into the U.S., your child still gets citizenship. It's not a ban
Well,
yet.
I mean, Trump can't change the law
It
overnight.
can't. There has to be.
Yeah,
We talked about this in the morning.
Because
So,
it's a constitutional issue.
right.
Right.
So he can't wake up
Right.
and say, I ban. No, it has to be done by law.
Yeah,
But for now,
so the things they are doing is to make it difficult.
yes, it's harder.
Discourage, build a wall.
So if you
Stop
go to
people
the
from
embassy,
getting on planes.
to the U.S. consulate for your interview, expect tougher questions, expect tougher interviews.
Right.
That's just
And
it.
general discouragement.
Let's look at this story. Another equally big story. Government at crossroads over 1.7 trillion naira investment in power sector. It comes with the writers here. Contemplates reversal of Disco's ownership. Solicits workable solutions for sector. That's on the front page of Daily Independent newspaper. Let's look at that story. The intractable crisis in the power sector, where the federal government has injected additional 1.7 trillion naira in the last 3 years, appears to have become a hard nut for it to crack. To this end, the federal government has thrown the doors open, calling for suggestions and workable solutions from all strata of the society. Apparently, we're at a crossroad. We don't even know what we're doing anymore.
Well, the discussion now is that
We are confused.
all these Disco, Genco, all these things are not working. Look, people are just playing Ludo with the thing.
Sincerely.
The thing is to tackle the thing from source. Stop flaring gas. Build the power plant where the gas is. Distribute from there. Go for renewable energy. A lot of wind, a lot of solar. Countries are doing
decentralize the grid.
Decentralize. Do mini
Decentralize.
grid so that this idea that when the grid collapses,
Everywhere
the whole
shuts
nation,
down.
there is no federal country in the world except Nigeria where there is one national grid.
So why are we confused, Rotimi?
It's insane.
Why don't we know all of these things?
Because the people in charge are confused. We are not confused.
Are you sure they are confused?
No, they are confused or incompetent or both.
Well, sounds like a better option.
I mean, there is one of the directors now in the Disco. I was tweeting about it a few days ago when the guy said, "Yeah, don't call us NEPA if if you want light."
It must be high on something.
I said this guy does not understand pidgin.
What? Never expect power
Yes,
always.
I don't tweet. This guy doesn't understand pidgin. Pidgin, NEPA in our national pidgin vocabulary means all those people causing the problem.
Everybody.
Whether you are Disco, Genco,
We don't
whatever,
want to know.
Yes, you are NEPA.
And you can't change it. WhatsApp, Twitter messages or Facebook. You can make me laugh too much. Gbala Akibami says, bienvenue, thank you. Bon anniversary. It's
Thank
greeting
you.
Thank you. Shina Yusuf says, good morning, thank you. Kenna Bright, we thank you also for joining. Gbala Akibami says, apart from TSA and sectional corruption, which is few and far between, Buhari's anti-corruption is ineffective because it is not roots and branch. Igwe Victor, it is now conspicuous and obvious for all. We are shouting that this government wasn't fighting corruption. Rather, the worst corruption people couldn't believe. I don't understand this
I
message.
mean, as far as things like security votes are still there for politicians to exploit, the fight against corruption is largely
still-
meaningless.
right. I think
Because
what
that's
is-
where the big obe is
It's
coming from.
Sure.
I think what he's
Sure.
saying, I can gather from the last part of this message, is that they only believe when it comes from international bodies. The much touted mantra about fight and corruption was just a drive to cling onto power. Golam Akibami again says Amotekun is dead on arrival, given discordant tones from Southwest governors. Where did you hear those tones? I didn't hear. Says Lassa fever is a preventable annual score. Rotimi is spot on rodent control, but Federal Ministry of Health is too silent. Machiavelli, if Edibo say, Rotimi, I beg, I'm driving, is laughing here. I think on the NEPA thing really got him up.
Indeed. We have to begin to wrap up right now, but before then, you can check out other headlines from the papers this morning. IG orders Oyo CP to enforce return of sacked council chiefs. Rotimi, remember that news broke the other day, and IG is seeking the police to move those council chairmen back to the councils. And Oyo government is saying, don't interfere now. Steer clear of...
This month.
There's a lot. I mean, there are a lot of strange things.
This is
happening in this
confusion,
country.
right?
There are a lot of strange things happening in this country. I mean, first of all, any governor that sacks LG,
Council,
people is blatantly illegal.
And I'm really shocked that this
No,
same Oyo guy that we've been.
is I mean, it's a power grab now.
It's-
and they all do that.
yeah.
They all do
it's not
that.
only Oyo in Ogun.
They
too.
all
I
do
I
that.
somehow didn't expect it from
him, right?
From him, right? Somehow, I
No,
don't know.
it's a power grab because the resources at the center can never be enough for the boys. That's for the elite.
So the fewer,
that's
the
for
better.
the elite. So if you sack the elected people and appoint your own guys at the local
you can
level,
better control.
So
Right.
guys, that's
Give
your
them
own.
crumbs and-
you can proceed from there.
Right.
Well, we're following this story,
And it doesn't
more.
help in any way.
Not at
Because
all.
There won't be any development.
No, they are not
Nothing.
accountable to anybody that elected them. How can you go and ask an appointed LG official why there is no primary health center, no primary school, why the roads are bad, no recreation center,
Right,
if
right.
the gutters are full. You ask whether you elected him or her.
Good question. Let's leave now, guys, as we head off for a break. We're back just in a moment, and after the break, we'll continue our conversation from yesterday. We went practically to Takwa Bay, where there have been forceful evictions, and we had quite a touchy conversation yesterday with one of the ballers in Takwa Bay, one of the evictees. The youth leader was also here, and Samuel was also here from the Informal Slum Settlement Federation. Today we're bringing this conversation down to Lagos and asking, what's the Lagos State government doing for these people? They are Lagosians. And we're asking questions from the Commissioner for Information, who's joining us just after the break. Also, our correspondent Ijama Esek was invited by the Navy to go to Takwa Bay yesterday to say, you guys come see why we sent them away. So she'll be telling us what she saw, because the Navy is... they don't want to talk to us directly yet, but they've spoken to Ijoma, who will tell us what exactly they said to all the reporters who were there. So don't miss the show coming up after the break. Rotimi, thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, we're back in a moment. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sharif Quadry.